Hi guys, so today, upon request and because it's one of my favorite things to talk about, I am going to talk about food. Food can be a very confusing subject. There's just so much information out there, so I'm going to try and simplify it for you. To be honest, there's not one perfect answer. Food is a lot about personal preference and your own beliefs. So my philosophy is to support my pet owners where they're at and what they want to accomplish with their diets. I have seen a lot of animals eat really bad food, low-end, dry kibble their whole lives and live a really long, fruitful life. I've also seen people try to feed their pets the perfect diet, and pets have gotten cancer at a young age. So there is not one answer, but I'm gonna share some of my thoughts around food and the advice that I give my clients. I'm Dr. Sally, and I'm a veterinarian, and I've been practicing for the past 20 years and focusing the last 10 years on holistic veterinary medicine. I am certified in acupuncture, veterinary medical manipulation, which is like chiropractic, Chinese food therapy, and Chinese herbal therapy. One of my favorite subjects is food, so that's what we're going to talk about today. There is not one perfect answer, so it really comes down to what your goals are with your pet. When it comes to food, I really try to support people where they're at and what fits into their lifestyle. That can range from straight kibble to fully home-cooked diet. My favorite, personally, is an integrative approach, which is some dry and some whole foods combined. Let's start with discussing dry food. Dry food is highly processed and therefore tends to cause heat in the body. And so if there's anything you can do to try and not completely feed dry food, that will help the longevity of your pet. In my opinion, when it comes to dry food, the choice of protein is the most important part. Each protein has a property of causing either warmth in your body or cooling your body off. It's sort of like thinking about you want to eat lamb stew in the middle of winter, but then in the summer, something that sounds like it would be refreshing and cooling is like a white fish and cucumbers, that type of thing. So intuitively, it all makes sense. The most common protein in dry food is chicken, and that is one of the most common allergenic proteins, but that's just because it's the most common protein in dry foods. Chicken is a hot protein. If your pet has any inflammatory disease, such as allergies or arthritis, I will typically steer owners to choose a more cooling protein. Some examples of cooling protein are turkey, duck, and whitefish, and hot proteins are chicken, venison, and lamb. Most dogs tend to develop heat within their body over time, sort of like women in menopause. So as they get older, a lot of dogs will pant a lot and seek cool floors. You've probably noticed that in some of your pets. That is internal heat. And the way to sort of balance that out with food is to choose cooler proteins. There are also in between neutral proteins that are sort of easier to find. Salmon, beef, pork, most fishes. And so typically if a pet comes to me and they have allergies or they tend to run hot or they have a really fiery personality, they're seeking a lot of cool floors, I will typically steer people to choose a cooler protein. And let me clarify, it's not the temperature of the food, it's what that protein or food does within your pet's body once they eat it. So dry food is processed, therefore hotter. Raw or real food is not processed, and therefore it's a lot more cooling for the body. One of my favorite ways to feed is to feed half dry and half home cooked. Therefore, you know that the pet is getting their vitamin and mineral needs, but you're also giving them whole foods and less processed food. So for my pets, I pick a neutral protein of salmon in their dry food, and then I feed them a mixture of whole foods. I sort of mix it up. Right now I'm feeding them raw ground beef, and this really doesn't have to be difficult. You can make this as easy as feeding half of your dry food and then adding green beans because they're so low in calories, so they can have a ton of those. It's also good when you're trying to get your pet to lose weight. I also often recommend making a pound of ground beef or a pound of ground turkey, pouring off the fat and giving that to your pets in addition to their regular dry. When you're cooking whole food, pets need to have more of the whole food than the quantity of the dry that you're feeding. As a general rule of thumb, for dry food, it's 1 cup per 20 pounds per day. And for whole food mixture, it's 1.5 cups per 20 pounds per day. And in that whole food mixture, you want it to be approximately 50% protein, and then 40% non-starchy veggies, and 10% fat. My favorite fat to use is coconut oil, and I recommend adding that to each feeding. Here's a really simple example that you could start today. Take a pound of ground beef, brown it, pour off the fat, throw in a bag of spinach, it wilts right away, and then dump in 1 can of green beans, 1 can of kidney beans, 1 can of mushrooms, and you have a perfect home-cooked diet. And then you feed 1.5 cups per 20 pounds per day. If you are mixing half dry and half home-cooked, you need to do the calculations. So to make the math simple, if you are going to feed half dry and half home-cooked, you would feed 1/2 cup per 20 pounds per day and 3/4 cup of whole food mixture per 20 pounds per day. So that would be half and half. I would like to encourage everyone to give this a try. Whole food is just so much more healthy than the dry food, but you don't need to feel guilty about this. Anything that you can do that's a little more whole and a little less processed is better for your pet. Same with us. Dry food is sort of like eating mac and cheese every day, all day for the rest of your life. We all know that we should eat more whole foods, and that's the same for our pets. And they really don't need any carbs. You can give them brown rice or potatoes or sweet potatoes, but they really don't need that. Most formulations of dry food are over 50% of carbs. It is possible to feed your pet all whole foods. It's just a lot of calculations to make sure they're getting all of their vitamins and nutrients. So if you do that, then I would highly recommend adding a powder or a pill that is full of vitamins and minerals for pets. If you are doing that, you do need to check their vitamin and mineral levels at least once a year. A lot of veterinarians who try to recommend home-cooked diets will point pet owners to a website called balanceit.com. But in my opinion, and what a lot of pet owners have told me, is that they went there and it didn't really give them much advice, but it sold them products. So that's not my favorite website. So my cheat or my workaround is to feed half dry and half home cooked. And then you know that they are getting balanced vitamins and minerals from the dry food. If all of this sounds pretty overwhelming to you, like I said, you can make it as easy as giving them green beans instead of milk bone treats. Anything that you can replace that is processed with whole food is going to be beneficial for them. Another easy thing to do is to make hard-boiled eggs and give them one once a day, or mix that in with their food, or scrambled eggs. Eggs are really healthy for them. Protein is always a good choice. With cats, food therapy is a lot more challenging just because they can be picky. So what I typically recommend is just trying to feed them meats. Tuna, sardines, canned chicken, canned salmon. Those are the typical things that are easiest to get your kitties to eat. Dogs and cats do not need a lot of carbs, as I said before, and so I really try to use minimal fruits in their diet. A couple of things that I do think are good are blueberries, either frozen or fresh. You can use those as treats. If you are going to use fruits, I use tiny bits. So you could chop up an apple and use really tiny pieces for a cooling treat, but I really do try to stay away from a lot of carbs. And on that note, a lot of people will feed their dogs carrots, which I think is a good idea if you use a few of them, but carrots are higher in sugar, so I prefer using green beans. And you sort of have to play around with your dogs and see if they like frozen green beans. Most of them do like the texture of canned green beans, and it's so convenient just to open the can and toss them a few of those for a treat. A lot of people ask me if they need to use organic or not. And in my opinion, if you can afford it, go for it. But my philosophy is, even if it is the cheapest type of green beans on the shelf, it's still healthier than just dry food. So I would say whole food is better than dry, no matter what quality it is. But I want you to understand, when I say whole food, I mean real whole food, such as meat and non-starchy veggies, just like is healthy for us, is healthiest for your pets. So I do not recommend feeding them pizza or McDonald's or high carb foods that we really should stay away from as well. Raw versus cooked is really just a personal preference, so either way is fine. If your pet won't eat green beans, one of my favorite types of treats is freeze-dried organ meats. So we sell freeze-dried liver, which most pets love. However, it is high in fat, so if you're trying to get your pets to lose weight, I would either cut those up into tiny pieces or use a different organ meat such as tripe or lung, or any freeze-dried meats is a really good choice for a treat as well. If all of this sounds great to you, but you don't have time to do any of this, there are a handful of commercial diets out there that are sort of in between. So Honest Kitchen, which is a whole food dehydrated and you just add water. There's also Dr. Harvey's, where it's a whole food dehydrated, you add water, and then you add your choice of protein and your choice of oil. So these are sort of the in-betweens that are better than dry food, but don't take as much preparation time. A lot of people ask me how often they need to change up the diets, and in my opinion, you really don't have to, but if you want to, seasonal diet change is my recommendation. So for the summer, you definitely want to lean cooler because you have the heat from the environment that's causing heat in their body. And for the winter, you lean a little more neutral or even warming if your pet tends to be cold, such as like a tiny little Yorkie, or cats tend to be cold as well. Basically, food is medicine, just like movement is medicine. And so anything you can do to decrease the amount of processed foods that they're getting is really going to help their body to perform on a better level and increase their longevity. When our pets eat better, they feel better. If you do decide to do home cooked, after about 6 months, I highly suggest that you go to your veterinarian and have the vitamin levels checked. There are special labs that do this, and then they also give recommendations on how to balance the vitamins or minerals that they might be low on. If you guys haven't seen this book, it really is a good read. It's huge, so I actually listened to it, and I do think it has a lot of good information. I tell my clients that the first half of the book, it basically tells you everything that is toxic and wrong in the world that is harming us and our pets. But after that, it does give you some tips and tricks on how to improve things using food. But they also came out with a second book, which I really like because it's beautiful. But to be honest, I wouldn't cook like that for myself or my kids, so I'm definitely not doing that for my dogs. But I have met a pet parent who uses this cookbook. Shout out to her. That's pretty impressive. It's a beautiful book, but it can definitely be overwhelming. I just want to encourage you that this does not have to be difficult. Like I said, if you can replace 1/4 cup of dry food with 1/3 cup of whole food mixture, even if it's just ground hamburger and green beans, a little bit goes a long way. So this was sort of an overview of food therapy. There is a lot more to be shared on this. Food therapy can be used to treat a lot of diseases. It can treat personality types, it can treat behavioral disorders, it can treat any type of ailment, kidney disease, pancreatitis, allergies. There's just a lot that you can do with food. Food is medicine. Like I said before, food is one of my favorite things to discuss. So if you are interested in a consult, you can find me on the Direct Health for Patients app. Just download the app and then use the code B as in boy, ARCLEA 475. And I'd love to discuss this more with you. So again, I just want to encourage you to do a little bit, even just a topper. It's so healthy for your pets.